In this lesson, we're going to talk about adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. And this is going to be very similar to adding, subtracting, and multiplying when we did this with quadratics. So our first example, number 1, you will notice in between the two parentheses, they have a plus sign. So this one is considered adding polynomials. And if you distribute a plus sign, well, a positive times a negative is still a negative, and a positive times a positive is still a positive. So basically, distributing a plus sign does not change anything. So I am just going to list out the information that is inside both parentheses without writing the parentheses down. Whoops. And then from here, we're going to just combine like terms. And when you're doing this, you always want to start with the highest exponent first and then work your way down. So my highest exponent is x to the 5th. So I got 12x to the 5th. I don't have anything to add to that, so I leave it alone. There's no x to the 4th, but I do have a negative 7x to the 3rd and a positive 8x to the 3rd. So 8 minus 7 is 1x to the 3rd. Then we go to x squareds. And I got a positive 3x squared and a positive 6x squared. And if I add 3 plus 6, I get 9x squared. And then I don't have any x's. And my plain number, I only have one of those, and that is a plus 4. So there's my final answer. Now moving on to the second one. This one, we've done a combination of addition and subtraction in this problem. So remember, the addition part doesn't change anything. So I'm going to lose the first parentheses, and I'm going to lose the second parentheses. But now let's talk about subtraction. If I take this negative sign and I distribute it, a negative times a negative will switch to a positive, and a negative times a positive will go to a negative. So remember, if you're subtracting, you're basically distributing a negative sign, which switches the signs of that parentheses. So now we're just going to go with highest exponent. Highest exponent is m to the 4th. So if I look at my m to the 4th, I have a 13m to the 4th, a negative 2m to the 4th, and a negative 5m to the 4th. So 13 minus 2 minus 5 will give me 6m to the 4th. Then I have a m to the 4th n to the 2nd. I don't have anything to combine with that, so I'm just going to write that down next. Then the next one I have is 13 m to the 2nd n to the 3rd. And then finally, we're going to finish it up with a 2 and a 2. So add those together and gives me plus 4. So now let's move on to multiplication. So when you look at C, You're going to notice it's multiplication because you no longer see two sets of parentheses with a plus or minus in between them. Here you have one item outside and several items inside, so that means distributive property. So multiply the coefficients. 5 times 3 is 15. And then you have to remember the exponent property that says when you are multiplying, you add your exponents. So here I'm going to put in a magic little 1 for x. And for x, 1 plus 3 gives me x to the 4th. There are no y's with the first one, so I don't have anything to add to that y, so we're just going to keep that y the same. The middle one, 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Add your exponents for x. 1 plus 2 is x to the 3rd. I'm going to put in my magic little 1 for exponents of y, and 1 plus 1 gives me y to the 2nd. On the last one, multiply the coefficients. 5 times 7 is 35. There are no x's to add it to, so just keep that as x. And for y's, 1 plus 5 gives me y to the 6th. And then we are done. On the next one, you only have one parentheses, but you have a power outside the parentheses. When you have a power outside the parentheses, you have to remember that that means quantity squared. And quantity squared means two identical parentheses. Now, here you can box or FOIL, or if you think distributive property twice, whatever you want. I'm going to make a box. And on the box, I'm going to put 2 plus 5n squared on the top and 2 and 5n squared on the side. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5n squared is 10n squared. 5n squared times 2 is another 10n squared. 5n squared times 5n squared, well, 5 times 5 is 25. And then add your exponents, so 2 plus 2 would give me n to the 4th. So we're looking at 25 n to the 4th. Then I have some like terms here. 10n squared plus 10n squared is 20n squared plus 4. Now, key thing to remember, when you're adding or subtracting, you do not, let me stress, do not hold on, let me get my spelling down here. Okay, you do not change the exponent. You only change the exponent when you are multiplying. Okay, not if you're adding or subtracting. So that's a big key thing to remember. Okay, moving on to the next example. This one is still multiplication because there's no add or subtract between the two parentheses. And this time, I'm going to multiply with a box, but instead of making a 2 by 2, I'm going to have a 2 by 3. Okay, so you've got 2 items in one parentheses, 3 items in the other. So you're going to make a 2 by 3. So I choose to put the 2 parentheses on the side. And the one that has 3, that parentheses, I'm going to put on the top. So now we're just going to multiply. So 7k to the third. Remember, when you're multiplying, add your exponents. Minus 14k to the second. 49k. Negative 3k squared. Positive 6k. And negative 21. So 7k to the third. Then I have some like terms here. So negative 3k squared minus 14k squared gives me negative 17k squared. I also have some more like terms here. 6k plus 49k is 55k. And then minus 21. And you're done. The next example, once again, we're still multiplying. And this time, our box is going to be a 3 by 3. I got 3 items in one parentheses, 3 items in the second parentheses. So that means our box has to be a 3 by 3. I'm going to put the first parentheses on the side and the second parentheses on the top. And then I just start my multiplying. Negative x to the fourth. Three x to the third. Negative 5x squared. Positive 2x to the third. Negative 6x to the second. And positive 10x. 8x to the second. Negative 24x. And positive 40. So negative x to the fourth power. Then I've got some like terms here. 2x to the third plus 3x to the third gives me positive 5x to the third. 8x squared minus 6x squared minus 5x squared will give me negative 3x squared. And then negative 24x plus 10x will give me negative 14x. And then we keep the plus 40 at the end. Done. Now our last example. This one, instead of just multiplying 2 parentheses together, you're actually going to multiply 3 parentheses together. When you're multiplying 3 parentheses together, pick 2 of them to start with. Doesn't matter which 2 you pick. I am going to choose the first 2. So I'm going to put x and 5 on the side, x and negative 9 on the top. So that gives me x squared minus 9x, positive 5x, and negative 45, which will give me x squared. And then my like terms will give me negative 4x minus 45. Then I'm going to take that answer and I'm going to multiply it by the third parentheses. And now we have a problem that looks like the one right above it. Looks like question E, where you have 2 items times 3 items. So once again, we're going to make a rectangular box instead of a squarish looking box. I always choose to put the parentheses with 2 on the side and the parentheses with 3 on the top. So multiply x squared minus 4x minus 45 minus x to the third, positive 4x squared, and positive 45x. So, answer, you've got negative x to the third. Then we have a positive x squared and a positive 4x squared, which will give me positive 5x squared. And then I have a negative 4x and a positive 45x, and that will give me a positive 41x. And then we still have minus 45. And you're done.